morning and welcome to Business Morning. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwagu. Well, one good news coming out this morning is that ASU has finally called off the 9-month strike. Well, this is good news for everybody, particularly those students in the universities that have been at home all this while. So hopefully come January, these children will have to get back to school. But let's just hope that we don't have this kind of situation repeat itself again, and let's hope that both ASU and the government would eventually arrive at a final conclusion to ensure that we don't go through this situation again. Then another issue bothering Nigerians is the issue of the name registration and the syncing of these NIN numbers to the SIM cards. Now, yesterday, the Lagos head office of the National Identity Management Commission resumed the enrollment of residents for the national identity number after it shut down over applicants' non-compliance with COVID-19 protocols. But one would ask, has anything changed? But let's watch this report.
Caution is thrown to the wind as Lagos residents besiege the main gate leading to the National Identity Management Commission in Elausa, Ikeja to register for the National Identity Number, NIN. Before now, about 200 early arrivals had been allowed in. But at some point, frustration sets in for those waiting.
What kind of statement is that?
Last week, I'm just getting it today. My
Why
name
is it telling us that one that there's no bonus
Since
when we come
last week,
inside?
I've been coming here with baby every day.
As minutes turn to hours, they allege irregularities in the conduct of the exercise.
Since Friday, I've been coming all the way from away. On Friday, I was here. Monday, I was here. Tuesday, being today, I was here as early as 6 a.m. this morning. They said that they're collecting only 200 people.
So I have work to do. I have to come here every day. Now I'm here again today. No chance to enter. Do I have to wake up by 5 a.m. to come here because I want to do a national identity card? It doesn't make any sense.
Apart from the provision of a hand wash, other COVID-19 safety guidelines like social distancing are hardly enforced. Within the registration hall, social distancing is observed, and one after the other, applicants are called for enrollment. Seven points are provided to attend to various needs: enrollment, customer complaints, and slip collection. But one wonders how this number of systems can handle the crowd.
We can attend to 500 people minimum in a day, but it's just that first come, first served basis. The process that we took up is that people at the gate that wants to collect the NIN, what we'll do is collect the tracking slips and print and return back to them, because they don't need to come into the premises because we have to adhere to the safety guidelines. There is no center in Lagos State that is not working as I speak. We have close to 70 centers in enrollment centers in Lagos, aside the state office that is up and running.
The aged, the physically challenged, and those with special needs also present themselves for the NIN registration.
We took them to another office, making two systems inside this building for the elderly, the pregnant women, and the nursing mothers.
The National Identity Management Commission is confident that with the new addition of 203 licensed data capturing agents, it will enroll over 200 million Nigerians before February the 9th, 2021, which is the new deadline for linking of national identification numbers with SIM cards.
Now, since this directive that telecommunications subscribers should link their SIM card to the NIN, since the directive, a lot of criticisms have followed. By the way, I tried to reach out to NIMSI. They are yet to respond to me. However, one group that seem not to agree with this situation is the operators, and they are the Private Telecommunications and Communications Senior Staff Association of Nigeria. Let's find out why, and I have here with me in the studio the President, Private Telecommunications and Communications Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Mr. Obeyemi Tomori, who joins me now. Good morning, Mr. Tomari. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Now, I'm sure you saw that report. For me, watching it is quite disheartening, considering the situation we are in now. We're talking about a pandemic, and then we have a lot of people flocking out there. Now, where does your association stand in all of this?
Thank you very much. For my association, as we have already said, and in many avenues, we've also tried to make this communication, is that although we recognize the importance and the need for the action that the government is taking, but using the scare tactics, as we will say, to make sure that you get people to do the NIN registration, because in this particular activity that is happening, the problem is not linking the NIN to the SIM registration, but the problem is people actually having the NIN registration in the first place. Now, if you have over 100 million, as a lot of people have said, and the statistics have shown, that are yet to get registered, and you want them to register within a very short period, then we are going to see what we have already seen in this last report. And I can see that we have mentioned also there that there is partial compliance with the COVID-19 protocol. There is nothing like partial. It's either you are compliant, or you are not compliant. So if we are trying to do the NIN registration, the NIN link to the SIM registration information that we already have, this is in order that we could actually save lives and make the nation more secure. But we are also putting a lot of people in the line of danger once again.
Now, so, I wish Nimsi is here to answer this particular question, because I know that National Identity Management Commission has been in existence for over 10 years. And this NIN registration didn't just start now, but one would wonder why government is just realizing the significance of this registration at this point.
Actually, the government realizes the need, the importance of the registration right from the onset. But the problem is about we, the people, needs to take up this and just go there, do the registration. Now, the real reason why the registration is needed in the first instance is to be able to have a database where you can always refer to in order to track someone down, get necessary information about someone. Now, the situation in the country presently, where we have a lot of things happening in the northeast, in the northwest, everywhere, even in the other parts of the country, we have a lot of kidnapping. Kidnappers will always use SIM cards, mobile phones to make communications and so on. The government needs additional information with which they can actually track down whoever needs to be tracked down. Now, that is the essence of, that is the main reason why the government is trying to enforce this at this time. The only problem and the main problem we have and others have is the way we are going about it.
Or the timeliness.
The timeliness, yes, as you said, it's been there for over 10 years. Yes, we could say a lot of people are supposed to have gone for this registration when the offices were always deserted. But as you know, people will think it is not necessary, but it is also for our government to make sure that, that make sure that they take care of the populace and make sure that you don't put them under unnecessary stress, as we have seen.
Yeah, so I can understand the fact that the government would want to have a comprehensive database, and I can understand the fact that, yes, we have had issues of insecurity, and it's proper to really track some of those. Now, we've been doing a lot of registrations. I mean, you guys in the telecom, we've had SIM card registration. There's also BVN. Even your INEC registration, census. I mean, is there no way these things can be unified?
Thank you. Yes, there are ways. And that is actually what we are also driving in our communication, is that linking the NIN registration information with the SIM registration should not put any stress on anybody, not any subscriber in Nigeria, because easily that could be done in the background. So if you look at the way the operators and the government is going about it, they've made sure that it is easy for someone to do just on his mobile phone. That is the linking itself. Now, in terms of the other databases that we have all around, as you said, yes, linking these and trying to have a single database where you can get all this information as at when you need it. Yes, this is doable, and it's very easy in today's world to do that because you already have very, very, very unique data, which is in form of the biometrics, which is being captured all around. So easily you can synchronize, and then you make sure that you have a single database. It may not necessarily be a single database per se, but the thing will be that there will be a management layer where you could access and connect to any of the databases, just like doing a search. You know, search engines will go to a lot of databases to check what you need. So we can easily, it is doable if the government really wants to do this.
Yes, I think I agree with you that it's doable, because another thing that I'm trying to wrap my head, around is the fact, even before this instruction was given, yeah, for me as an individual, if I have my name, okay, and perhaps I don't know what the number is, my telecom operator has a code I can actually dial, and then I get my NIN number. So doesn't that show that, yes, this is already, I mean, my operator already had connection with my NIN?
Exactly. Yes, there are some already that...
So why do we have to go through all this process?
Yes, this is what I was saying, that the issue of the linking and those that already have is not the main issue. The main issue is for those that are going for the registration. And you see a lot of people thronging to the offices of the NIMC to make sure that they do this.
Now, for you, do you think NIMC has really not done its job in all of this? For us to have these number of people yet that are yet to be, registered?
Yes, I agree. They've not really done enough, because to really sensitize people to make sure that they do this, there's supposed to be a lot of communication, jingles on the media and everywhere, to make sure that people realize the importance. That's one. The secondly is to make it readily available everywhere, registration centers. But if you go around in Lagos, for example, at the time it was just only 21 centers all around the whole of Lagos for 20 million plus people. So you will never get people to do these things, because it is not even in some localities. So for NIMC, yes, the government, this is the responsibility to make sure that they get this to the doorsteps of people. And then secondly, the awareness should also be there.
Now, I am wondering, with all of these people out there, and with this directive that the government has given, and then you have a lot of people, throwing it out there to get their name, their registration done. Now, before this, there has also been some kind of challenges in terms of infrastructure. Now, I'll give you an instance. My daughter, for instance, wanted to do hers. This was just way before this, and then went there to do the registration. She had to stand out there, waiting to be registered. And then the next thing, they told her that there's no light. They don't even have generators. They have time when they will have to on the generator. And then you still have to pay for it. Is that acceptable?
Not in any way. And that is what we have said again. In terms of the commission needs to ensure that it is easy for people to do. Because when it is not easy, just like the instance you cited right now, a lot of people will lose interest, and then they won't do it. That is why the scare tactics that the government is employing now to force people to do it, when the government have not put the necessary infrastructures in place to make it easy, then it is not acceptable at all. Yes, because at the end of the day, we will just run into chaos everywhere.
Now, for you telecom operators, I mean, the ball is also in your court now to ensure that these linkages, are done. And I know that when the announcement was made and the 2 weeks deadline was given, you guys cried out that, look, you cannot achieve this. Now they've extended it to 6 weeks. Can you achieve it now?
No way. It cannot be achieved, because as I was saying, even with the participation of the private establishments and the others that have recently been approved, there is really no standard operating procedure on how these people are going to come on to participate and help in relieving the stress on the NAMC, okay? Because if this starts and when this starts, then we could actually start talking about registering about 3,000 people in a single station. If you have about 1,000 of them in Lagos, for example, then you expect that every day you shouldn't do less than 1,000 or even 3,000 for you to be able to cover the number that you're expecting in Lagos. These are things that the government could have actually calculated and realized that this duration is not enough.
Now, before they came up with this announcement,
yeah.
were you guys carried along? Did you have a conversation with them? Did they tell you, look, this is what we want to do? Were you guys carried along?
Actually, yes. As you know, we are the union side. Yes, in terms of people, yes, there has been some communications in terms of like getting data, information from the operators back and forth and so on. Okay, in terms of the auditing, I would say this is still ongoing anyway. And if you, I think in the news, we've also seen that there has been also meetings between the operators as well as the government establishments to make sure that they set the proper timelines, okay? But what came out of such meeting, we saw we are getting like 3 weeks, 6 weeks. That's really not enough. It cannot happen because, as you know, we are in the festive period. A lot of people will rather not do the registration until about next year. And the next year, they have less than 2 weeks to do this. So how many people do you want to get registered? It is clear that in the first instance, the government is setting these dates just to make sure that there is pressure on people to quickly go and do it. So we as Nigerians also have a part to play. Yes, the government saying that the duration is this, is that they are, I'm sure, maybe from all indication, it's clear that they know this is not going to happen.
So if by 6 weeks now, and for those people who are unable to do theirs, are you going to cut them off?
No, I don't think the government can even do that. It's actually absurd because, one, you have already stopped a lot of, all the operators to stop registering new SIMs. A lot of people lost their SIMs and they cannot even do welcome back. They can't get calls to do anything until after the deadline in February. That is actually ridiculous. It's very bad. And that is saying that the government does not really care on the collateral damage, as I will, if you permit using that word. The collateral damage is getting higher by the day, you know, exposing people to COVID-19 dangers like this, and the other parts, getting people to come back into the network when they lose their SIMs, and so on. So it is clear that all these are just ways to get people to quickly rush to do it. For instance, you could see the BVN case, for example, when there was a push that your account will be blocked if you don't do this. But a lot of people, some are still doing BVN as of today. So I believe that for the government, what should be done is the awareness level should be raised, not scaring people. You know, when you scare them, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this to you, then you cause chaos like this. And you give also room to people who want to take advantage of others. Like you said, asking for money to do this is completely wrong. And now touts are there. If you go to the offices to register, the touts will say, you pay me some money, I will do it faster for you. And, you know, people want to get this done and go away and do other things. So they might be forced to. Very soon you'll be hearing that they do this for 10,000, 20,000.
Even before now, they do it for 15,000, 20,000. And that's the truth.
It's just like now, you are pushing us into the
Yes, you are a stakeholder there. You are to implement whatever it is that the government, you know, has said. So how long do you think you need to get this done?
In terms of the timeline, that will also be, for example, in terms of the calculations, you know, SIM come up every day, you know. So if the government could actually set a realistic timeline, like a year or 2 years within which they will reevaluate the situation and then do whatever changes and adjustment that are necessary. So we could say we will be getting somewhere with that in
All
this
right.
time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Obeyemi Tomere. Thank you
very
for that clarification from your own point of view. So hopefully, NIMSI would have also some answers to give to all of this. Thank you very much. And, well, I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas.
I wish you the same. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And as 2020 draws to a close, how do you reposition in the new normal in 2021? Codros Research has a report on this next. Well, the team at Codros Research released a report which they tagged Outlook for 2021 and Positioning in the New Normal, particularly for the financial market, and they presented their views on different sectors. So let's talk to the acting managing director at Codros Asset Management, Bolaho Aino. Good morning, Bolaho. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Good morning, Chimeze. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, now this year really has been truly exceptional, one in and out financial markets. How would you describe the financial market in 2020?
Great. So this year has been several things. It's been a COVID-19 pandemic narrative, and that's largely shaped the way markets behave, that shaped the way consumers behave, that shaped the way governments behave this year. Interestingly for Nigeria slumped into its deepest GDP contraction in Q2, and followed by that, we went into a recession in Q3. This is the second recession we've seen in about 4 years. So apart from the recession, it's been a stagflation, and stagflation is when you have high unemployment, you have high inflation rates, and you have a recession. So it's really been a difficult year, more or less, on all fronts. But the market has also behaved very well this year. The equity market that was sleeping rose up, and the equity market has done fantastically well this year. Also, in terms of the bond market as well, while yields have been low as well, in terms of bond prices have gained about 50% this year. So it's been a mixed bag. So there's the good, there's the bad, and the ugly. The good is that the financial markets really have been upbeat. When you look at the bond prices, when you look at equity prices, some stocks have gained as much as 50 to 100% this year, despite starting the year on a very slow pace. In terms of the bad situation is a low interest rate environment. And we saw interest rates really go down to almost lowest we've seen historically. T-bills rates almost there in 0%, which really means a negative return for a lot of investors. But I think the ugly thing is when you look at the health side of things, people that have lost lives, that have lost jobs. But so it's been bittersweet. It's been a mixed bag. But financial markets are smiling. Like I did said, the equity market has been up. A lot of the indices have done pretty well. The Nigerian market was the third best performing market globally on a dollar adjusted basis as at November, and was the second best in terms of just looking at it on face value. So really, it's been mixed bag to characterize what has happened, what has shaped events this year. But to put it in simple words, it's been a COVID-19 narrative.
Now, your latest report is tagged Positioning in the New Normal. How important is this?
So I guess people need to come to terms that things have changed, and so you need to position. You need to be able to position your investment. You need to be able to take advantage of opportunities. Like I just said, while there have been some ugly scenarios this year, there have also been some good times as well. There have been good times in terms of return, and a lot of people were able to take advantage of those returns because they positioned perfectly. And while everybody's hoping for 2021, the thing is that some of the things we have in 2020 might still linger for a bit. Yes, we expect to come out of a recession in 2021, but that impact might take a while. We expect interest rates to go up sometime in 2021. It might not be immediate. So in terms of how people invest, in terms of how people structure their portfolio, then to be able to factor all this in place. Do I need to maintain a short duration of my portfolio because I think interest rates are going to go back sometime up next year? What do I think is going to happen to the equity market? So all this needs to be put in perspective. And like I just said, some of the issues that we still have from 2020 might still linger a bit. In terms of on the macroeconomic front, for instance, so they need to think about they are going to be able to grow the economy. So there's a challenge. So the economy is going to come out of a recession, but are they going to be able to grow it substantially above population growth? So it's all on all fronts, but everyone just needs to position, and it's very, very important to position to be able to take advantage of what we expect in 2021.
Now, you presented your views on, the various sectors. Let's start with the banks. You are overweight on the banks. So what are your expectations for that sector?
So the banks have done well, very well more so, considering that this year we have low interest margin for the banks. If you look at the NSE banking index, for instance, it's gained by 11.9% year to date. And really, that might seem good, but that doesn't really tell the whole story, because a lot of other sectors have done very well as well. The huge liquidity we've seen in the economy has brought a lot of performance for a lot of the sectors, not just the banking sector. But the banks have proven to be resilient. So for a lot of the banks as well, we think that they are going to be able to pay strong dividends, and that means that investors are going to earn strong dividend on their investments. That is quite attractive. Bearing in mind that the interest rate is still pretty much low. And I did mention that a lot of the banks have strong balance sheet size as well. So in terms of being resilient, in terms of being creative, in terms of being innovative, we've seen that happen a lot with the banks as well. So we are quite overweight. We love the banks, and we think that the banks are going to do a challenging year in 2021, but I think a lot of them are still going to do well. And it's good to mention that we still think that some of the macroeconomic headwinds are still going to persist next year. So while people are positioning in the bank, so needs to be careful and to take position cautiously. Like I just said, we still expect interest margin to be a bit pressured next year as well. There might be a bit of asset quality issues as well next year as well. So just to be a bit careful, but we are overweight with the bank.
So what are your top picks in that sector, and why?
Okay, so two things is a twin benefits or objective for us. So for a lot of the banks, so we think there's a strong dividend yield expectation, a strong dividend play, and a lot of them, like I said, double-digit numbers, and that's really attractive when you compare to where we have in terms of the fixed income yield environments. And the banking sector, they've also proven to be resilient in recent times, and we think that's going to support their performance in 2021. But in terms of our topics, we are Access Bank, and our target price for Access Bank is 13 naira 80 kobo. We also have FBNH as well, and we have a target price of 8 naira 50 kobo. We have Guarantee as well, 41 naira. We have UBA, target price of 11 naira 24 kobo, and Zenith Bank as well is on the list at 2.28 naira. Interestingly, Zenith Bank, if you remember, came to as low as 12 naira sometime this year. It's gained almost 100% from the low that we saw this year as well. So it's been a good story for a lot of the banking sector stocks this year.
So for the consumer goods, it's a mixed bag for you. Why?
Well, so it's two things. So if you look at the way the consumer goods have really performed in 2020, some are really performed very well, but the consumer goods sector has really underperformed the general market, and it's majorly because of demand pressures. So a lot of people lost jobs this year. So there's that pressure in consumer wallets. Also for some stocks as well, for the agro-allied sector, they've done pretty well, and they've been able to, increase prices. But for some of the sectors in the consumer goods sector, the brewers, for instance, while they've not done so well as some of the other sector. So why do we think it's going to be a mixed bag for the consumer goods sector? So we think that the agricultural sector is going to benefit from improved volumes from new maturities. However, there's a challenge. The president mentioned that the border was going to be open, and that is going to pose significant risk as we expect supply to increase in that sector as well. For the brewers as well, we expect them to increase better, to record better volumes in 2021 because of the low base effect. But they're going to be posed with the challenge of increasing prices, because for them, there's that challenge of increasing prices in an high inflation environment. So we think that's a major challenge for them because of the inflation and the FX illiquidity that they're going to face. So that's why it's a mixed bag. So for some, we think that there are a lot of upside potential, but for some, it's neither here or there. And because of one, the FX liquidity pressure, and also because they are not able to raise prices significantly above inflation rate.
Okay, now let's look at the cement sector. What is your outlook for that sector? You talked about the border reopening, and don't forget the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement deal is coming up January 1. So what will that mean for not just the cement sector? Yeah, we just finished talking about the consumer goods sector.
Yes. So it's two things. So for the consumers, so I think it's maybe good news because they're going to have options. There's going to be more supply. And usually when there's competition, it means that prices will come down. But for the players or the people in that sector, that means that there's going to be competition on their price as well. So they might be forced to bring down prices. And the other major issue is that because there's a non-existence of anti-smuggling deal with neighboring West African governments. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on their prices in 2021. So might see reduced volume or might see pressure in terms of their revenues for the players. But for the consumers, where some of us fall, that means we might see lower prices. And so that might be a bit of good news. But for the players, might be a bit challenging for them because of the border reopening.
All right, let's look at the telecom sector. Well, looking at your report, you noted that there is a potential negative impact on the first quarter 2021 revenues and earnings if the NCC does not extend the NIN registration deadline and lines are disconnected. But do you see a light at the end of the tunnel, at the end of this whole exercise for that sector?
Yes, so we like the telco sector, and they've done very well. They've proven to be resilient during the pandemic. With the lockdown restriction, a lot of people were forced to either be restricted, working from home. While we saw that a lot of sectors suffered, we saw aviation sector suffer, we saw real estate suffer. A lot of people had to do their transaction either through their phone call, electronically, and that was good for the sector. A lot of people that were never on Zoom before, a lot of parents, grandparents, began to use Zoom, began to use some of all these platforms. And our players, MTN and Airtel, also benefited from that as well. So for MTN, they enjoyed strong subscriber base during that period. They also enjoyed increased smartphone and data penetration as well, and also high 4G population coverage within Nigeria. So it's been good for them in 2020, and also we expect that to still happen going forward. Despite the fact that there was FX liquidity issues, really the sector was more or less insulated. And the good thing that we saw for the telecom stocks was that for Airtel Nigeria, for instance, which is dual listed, so we saw a lot of investors exited the market through Airtel Nigeria. So it's a fungible stocks, so you can buy in Nigeria and able to exit in London Stock Exchange. So that drove the price of Airtel Nigeria. So year to date, MTN has done about 52%, while Airtel Nigeria has done 159% return, which is quite remarkable. But we think that the new regulation by the NCC might probably affect them a bit, at least in the first quarter, because what it means that if lines are going to be disconnected, that means there's going to be an impact on revenue. Revenue streams are going to be stifled. Revenue streams are going to come down a bit. But MTN has also been able to put some measures in place as well to be able to ensure that this is being mitigated. Not just MTN, a lot of the telcos are trying to put measures in place that this is being mitigated. But is there like at the end of the tunnel? So yes, I think so. For MTN Nigeria as well, they are going to be big on the PSB, which is the PSB banking license. So once they have that as well, that's going to impact on their revenue as well. So I think there's light at the end of the tunnel for not just MTN or Airtel, for a lot of the telco players.
All right, Bolao, a quick one before I let you go. Going into 2021, how can investors reposition for return on investment in the new normal?
Great. I think for investors, you need to be able to understand and learn your risk properly. Are you long-term or short-term? And if you're long-term investors, you can invest in the equity market. What we saw was that we think 2021 is going to be a tale of two halves for equity and for the fixed income market. For the equities market, we think that in the initial first half of the year, market is going to rally on the back of illiquidity in the system. But as we go into the other half of the year, when yields in the fixed income instrument also begin to change, might begin to see profit taking and might begin to see people reallocate their investment from equities to fixed income. So if you're a long-term investor, you can invest in the equity market in fundamentally justifiable stocks. If you're a short-term investor, I advise you to take short duration in money market instruments. Short duration is because we expect yields to rise sometime in the year. So you don't want to go too long into the year, and when yields rise, you're not able to enjoy the high interest rate environment. Also, if you're an equity investor as well, look for stocks that pay attractive dividend. We expect a lot of companies to pay dividend in double digit this year as well. And if you have investments or obligations in dollar as well, look for dollar instruments, dollar mutual funds, euro bonds as well. Those provide you two benefits of currency hedge and inflation hedging benefit as well. So one, understand your risk, and based on your risk, begin to allocate your resources in that regard.
Bolaho, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for always being on our show. Well, I'll use this opportunity to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas. Be well and be safe.
Thank you, Chimezi. Merry Christmas to you as well.
Thank you. Well, Eddie, investors have to reposition to really reap the benefit of their investment, particularly in the new normal going into 2021. Investors at the equities market are still smiling.
Yes, Jimmy, you're right. Right now, I feel like investors at the equities market are already repositioning and taking advantage, of whatever benefits that we see, whether are yet to come. Yesterday, we saw the 7th consecutive gain in the market, and that was largely driven by buying interest in Dangote Cement, Boa Cement, and Zenith Bank stocks. Now, the all-share index was up 1.20% at 37,893.61 points, while the equity cap was at 19.805 trillion naira. Now, volume and value increased yesterday. We saw about 442.22 million units worth 10.28 billion naira traded in 4,900 deals. Now, Chimi, I heard Bolaho tell you about their top picks, in the banking sector. Now, those 3 out of those top picks, drove that segment up, that sector up yesterday. That we saw gains from Zenith Bank, from UBA, and from Access Bank. Although there were so many losses on that count, and that's why we didn't see more gains on that sector. Consumer goods was down, of course, due to losses from international breweries. Industrial goods was up. Chimi, I'm sure you already know why industrial goods was up, and that was, of course, due to gains from Dangote Cement. But to talk more about what's going on with Dangote Cement, let's talk to Afolabi Benro, a stockbroker at Stanbic IBTC Stockbroker. Good morning, Afolabi. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning, Adidong. Thank you for having me.
Well, at the beginning of the week, Dangote Cement announced its share buyback program, and on Monday and yesterday as well, we saw investors rush for that stock. Now, tell us more about this program. I know they mentioned that it's the first tranche of the program, so could you just tell us more about it?
Yes, no problem. So Dangote Cement announced that they'll be buying back some of their shares on a share buyback program. The approval was granted on the 21st of January 2020, and the commencement of the first tranche is going to be on the 30th of December, and it's going to be for 2 days, from the Wednesday the 30th of December to Thursday the 31st of December. Now, Dangote Cement is intending to buy back in this first tranche about 0.5% of the entire current issued shares of the company, which is about 85.2 million. The total current issued shares is about 17.04 billion shares. I just wanted to state now that the company has also stated that they're under no obligation to buy any or all of the shares, but we expect that the buyback program is going to commence on Wednesday, the 30th of December, 2020.
All right, Afolabi, thank you for your input on the program. Do enjoy the rest of the day and have a wonderful holiday ahead.
So, thank you, Lydia.
Afolabi Mero is a stockbroker at Stanbic IBTC Stockbrokers. Chimi, the market is up right now as we speak. So, we're likely to see a positive trading day at the end of the day.
Investors are really going to go home before Christmas with big gift from Santa. I wish I bought some of those stocks. Anyway, Eddie, let's take a break. And when we come back, we talk to Juliana in London. All right, let's do an opening call to London with Juliana. Good morning, Juliana. Well, Britain and France have agreed a deal to ease a travel ban starting today. How is that playing out? I remember yesterday we talked about the fact that there's going to be a lot of backlog once they agree to open up.
There is a lot of backlog, Chimaze, and I've got to tell you there's a lot of angry scenes. About 10,000 lorry drivers have been clashing with police at the border of Dover and on the streets of Kent. It's really chaotic, and I'm sure we'll be able to get those pictures to our viewers later today. And these lorry drivers are not happy. Yes, the governments are happy because finally French and British ministers have agreed on a deal which will allow some easing of the congestion at ports from about midnight tonight. But one of the reasons why they have agreed this deal is that there has to be mass testing. There are these fast turnaround tests where you take a COVID test and within 30 minutes you can get a result. That obviously is going to take a lot of manpower. I believe the British government are going to be having the army coming in to try and help them. But for some of these lorry drivers, they're asking, well, if we test positive, where are we going to be staying? Where are we going to be self-isolating? How are we going to be getting home? And they're really not happy about that. As well as the mass testing at the borders in Dover, there will also be testing as soon as these drivers get to France. So even though there has been some sort of movement in this pretty precarious situation, lorry drivers still really frustrated, still not happy. And for many of them, they definitely won't be able to get home to see their loved ones before Christmas.
All right, let's see what's coming out from the corporate world. Tesco has introduced buying limits on items, including toilet rolls, eggs, rice, soap, and hand wash. Now, customers at the supermarkets are now limited to 1 item per person of toilet roll and up to 3 products of eggs, rice, soap, and hand wash. Who does this? Why is Tesco doing this?
Well, Tesco, Britain's biggest supermarket, isn't the only one. I believe Sainsbury's has also followed suit, and we're probably going to expect to see a similar announcement from the other two. And this is really to avoid panic buying. Panic buying, as we've seen in the UK, has been a topic of much discussion, and it first started during the first lockdown. But this has now got to do with the French president putting this 48-hour ban on Sunday evening because of this COVID strain. And there were suggestions, not just from the supermarkets, but from ministers, that this could cause a delay in fresh supplies and fresh produce getting into the supermarket shelves. On top of that, on Saturday night, 16 million people were plunged into Tier 4 restrictions, which means you couldn't go into any shops. So a lot of people fast-forwarded their Christmas shopping. A lot of people are using the supermarkets to get some non-essential goods because a lot of the big supermarkets here in the UK do also sell toys and clothes. And so we have been seeing lots of queues. We have been seeing lots of people repeating what they did earlier this year. And really what Tesco are trying to do is alleviate this situation, particularly for those who are most desperate, most vulnerable, the elderly, that may not be as fast when they're whizzing around the supermarkets. And they have told people that there will be restrictions on certain items. But I think the overwhelming message for shoppers here in Britain is to not panic, that there is enough food for everybody if you just shop and buy exactly what you and your household need.
Well, let's just hope that they don't panic. Anyway, what's the update on Brexit?
Goodness me, that's a billion-dollar question with just a couple of days to go. But there does appear to be some sort of breakthrough. This was first announced yesterday. There appears to have been some sort of back-channel phone calls between the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Ursula von der Leyen, the EU Commission President, without Michel Barnier, who did update the other 27 EU member states yesterday, saying that the concessions that the British government have made on fish is not enough. Well, according to sources close to Downing Street, Ursula von der Leyen Ryan does believe that the concession that the British government, in particular the chief negotiator for Britain, Lord David Frost, has made is enough. And she's been desperately speaking with Angela Merkel and French President Emmanuel Macron, trying to ratify this deal. We are potentially expecting an update later today, which would obviously be great for the populist Prime Minister we have here in Britain, Boris Johnson, after he's broken so many hearts by cancelling Christmas. Getting this deal done at the final stretch in the 11th hour before the transition period ends at the end of this year will be phenomenal. I think what sources are saying is that the UK has tabled a last-minute compromise on fishing, and they will allow the EU over 5 years to catch up to a third of the fish that they would typically carry. I believe the EU wanted it to be 60% over 3 years, but it is still all to play for. The deal is still on the table, and it has very little amount of time to be ratified. But as soon as we get an update, I'll make sure I update you, Chimmy.
Absolutely. We'll wait for that update later in the day. In the meantime, yes, Juliana, I know I'm not going to see you tomorrow. So I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas. Send my love to the children. I'll send my present to you.
I can't wait for my present, and Merry Christmas, Chimmy.
You'll definitely get it. You'll definitely get it. Eddie, back to you.
One present too, because you cannot be sending one to Juliana and not be sending one to me. Well, just before we go to the debt, the fixed income market, Chimmy, unfortunately, investors in the unlisted securities markets cannot relate to, the positive sentiment and the rally that we're seeing at the equities market. Now, that segment of the market is either flat or negative. Yesterday, the market was down 0.15% at 721.72 points, while the market cap is at 536.45 billion naira. We saw just about 53,600 units worth 16.09 million naira traded in 4 deals. Now, the bond market yesterday was quiet, although we saw yields rise by about just 1 basis point, but we saw just 2 deals on that counter worth 200 million naira. But let's talk to Dumebi Udegmunam, a fixed income dealer at UBA. Good morning, Dumebi. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning, compliments of the season.
Compliments of the season. Well, yesterday we saw OMO maturities worth 250.5 billion naira come into the system. Now, how is that likely to affect trading or shape trading today and tomorrow ahead of the holiday?
Okay, so right now, as of today, system liquidity stands at 334 billion. So that 250 billion has kind of pushed up system liquidity to be a bit stable right now. So we're seeing a bit of buying sentiment. However, there's a general, should I use the word slowdown of end of year sentiment in the market right now. There are little trades and lethargic sense of trading right now. We see a lot of very sentiments for people to take profits, while intermittent buys here and there, PFAs to more or less fill their regulatory obligations and also a bit of customer orders. So 250 billion more or less for a bit of bullish sentiments, but in general, the avenue of the view on the market has been lethargic and with mostly bearish sentiments.
Well, I mean, recently we've been seeing outlook reports for markets, ahead of 2021. What are you and your team at UBA, what are you expecting from the fixed income markets, towards the end of the year and at least the first half of 2021?
As we're already seeing, we're seeing an uptick in yields, the likelihood of uptick in yields. So we expect to see a general increase in yields going forward and into Q1, if we more or less pour investor sentiment back into the market, especially FBI and FBI. So going into Q1, we expect to see Q1 2021, we expect to see yields go up and more interest by our foreign investors. But from now to the end of the year, we expect this very mild and quiet market to close the year with a lot of small intermittent buys by PFAs to fill up their regulatory obligations, while a lot of banks closing their books and selling to take profit to close the year.
All right, maybe we'll be looking forward to the increase in yields in Q1 2021. Thank you so much for your input on the program and happy holidays. Dumebi Udegmunam is a fixed income dealer at UBA. Well, Chimmy, you've heard what Dumebi is saying. It seems like 2021 may just be a better year for the markets.
Well, let's just hope so. But more importantly, you said happy holidays. We just have one more day for trading. We have every reason to be thankful.
Yes,
and let's just hope the market closes positive tomorrow. I'm very optimistic on that. Well, on that note, we draw the curtain on today's edition of the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwagu.